The upper third is an interesting area, first of all, because first of all, when we look at the risk that we have in terms of injecting different areas and the relative risk of blindness and visual complications, we know that the upper third with the forehead, the nose, and the glabella is actually the highest. Now, what does this mean? Does this translate to the fact that I should not be injecting in this area? Well, if I'm a beginner, probably that should really translate to that. But it also means that this is an area in which I really have to have my anatomical knowledge down. I have to be injecting with the correct technique, and I have to be in an environment where I'm not rushing things. So this is an area in which you have a high risk of complications. So you have to be, I would say, one, experienced in injecting, having a good and safe technique, and being in an environment when you are not rushed. So how am I going to have a good anatomical foundation to keep me safe in an area that has so much high risk? Well, we talked about the importance of layers, right? And this is very important, especially in the upper third. Now, we know that the supraorbital and the supratrochlear artery branch out from the ophthalmic artery. And as they course through the orbit, they enter the forehead from the orbit, and they enter in a deep plane from the fissures on the bone. So here, the artery is actually located deep, as you can see, under the frontalis muscle, right? And at about 2 centimeters above the supraorbital rim, I know that my arteries transect through the frontalis muscle and they become superficial. Now, this is something that many plastic surgeons or I would say surgeons treating the face would know, because we do lots of flap surgeries, especially forehead flaps. And when we're doing these forehead flaps, we actually raise the flap quite superficially in the distal area. But as we go more proximal, we have to go deeper so that we don't damage the vascular pedicle. So with that, obviously, this is a very important thing, because I know that when I am injecting in this upper forehead region, the deep plane would be a safer plane to inject because my artery is located above the forehead, the frontalis muscle. But here, below this 2 centimeter line, I know that my artery is located deep in this plane. So what? Can I inject in the superficial plane? Obviously, this might not be an easy thing to ask you right now because I cannot see you, but when I am injecting in this lower forehead region or the glabella region, the deep plane is where I have my deep arteries, but the superficial plane is where I have my anastomosis between the internal and the external carotid systems. And that's why the superficial plane is also very dangerous in terms of vascular occlusions occurring. So that's why when we're injecting in this glabella area, the only area that might be considered maybe somewhat safer to inject would be the dermis. So when injecting the forehead, we can inject obviously from a single point at the hairline or maybe two lateral points, but it's important to make sure that we are keeping under the muscle and we are staying above that 2 centimeter line. Now that is an important thing to make sure that we are watchful for, and we have to stay under the frontalis. Now, going into the temple. The temple is an interesting area because it's actually the transition from the upper face into the mid face. And it has a different anatomical, I would say, organization within itself, but it's very, very fun to really just go ahead and learn more about. We know that it's bound by different elements. We know that the temporal crest is the upper boundary, the lateral orbital rim is the anterior boundary, the upper border of the zygomatic arc is the inferior boundary, and the posterior boundary is the hairline. So we know that, of course, the temple is a very wide area, but in general, we don't treat the hair-bearing area. So we mainly treat the anterior temple region. And we know that with age, or in some people, this area can actually lose its volume, be more skeletalized, and with that, the patient might look a bit more gaunt, a little bit more, I would say, unhealthy. So restoring that volume can definitely frame the upper third and give a more vibrant look to the patient. So it's an area that we treat quite frequently. But interestingly enough, like I said, it's a transitional zone between the upper and the mid face. And even though we talk about that typical 5-layer structure in the face, this is not true for the temple. It's kind of like the stock market. Some people name 6, some people name 10, others name 13 different layers, and it can go on and on. It's kind of, like I said, an ongoing, I would say, change. But in general, I think it's important to note that we again have some constants. The first one being the skin, which is obviously constant. Then we have the superficial fat compartment, which is again constant. Then we have two fascia layers, the first one being the superficial temporal fascia, and the second one being the deep temporal fascia. Now, between these two fascia layers, we have an interfascial space. The interfascial space can sometimes be a loose area, so it can just be a loose sort of alveolar area, in which some people call it the loose areolar tissue. Or sometimes it can be a little bit more fibrous and look like a fascia in its own. And then it's sometimes called the innominate fascia. So these are all basically the same nomenclature for the same area, the different nomenclatures for the same area. So this interfascial plane can also be called the innominate fascia or the loose areolar tissue. They're all basically the same thing. Then the deep temporal fascia is attached to the temporalis muscle, and the temporalis muscle is attached to the bone. But things are not as simple as this typical six-layered structure because we know that there are additional structures located, especially as we go from a superior to an inferior shift in the temple. Now, the temple can be divided into the superior temporal compartment and the inferior temporal compartment. And the superior and the inferior temporal compartment is actually divided by an anatomical structure called the inferior temporal septum. Now, this structure, it's a fibrous structure, and it's located from the corner of the eyebrow to the apex of the helix of the ear. Now, above this, the superior compartment of the temple is relatively more, I would say, constant. But things get a little bit more confusing as we go to the inferior compartment. Why? Because we have the additional layers occurring in this area. These additional layers occur because, one, we have two fat pads being introduced in this area, and we also know that the deep temporal fascia is not one, but two laminas in this region, meaning that it has two layers rather than the single layer that's located in this upper temporal compartment. Now, when we talk about this inferior compartment, from top to bottom, we again have the skin and the superficial fat. The superficial temporal fascia and the loose areolar tissue is again the same, but here we have the deep temporal fascia dividing into two. And interestingly enough, when this deep temporal fascia divides into two, we call it the superficial and the deep lamina of the deep temporal fascia. The superficial lamina goes over the zygomatic arc, whereas the deep lamina goes underneath the arc. And it basically hugs the zygomatic arc. The deep temporal fascia hugs the zygomatic arc. And in between the superficial and deep lamina, we have the superficial temporal fat pad. There's a fat pad right here in this region. And then underneath the deep temporal fascia, underneath the deep lamina of the deep temporal fascia, we have another fat pad, which is the deep temporal fat pad located right here. Now, the deep temporal fat pad, interestingly, is actually the continuation of the buccal fat pad from the midface. This is important because we know that when we end up injecting any kind of product in this region, due to the chewing of the temporalis muscle, because it's a muscle of mastication, product can actually migrate from the temple into the midface. So for that reason, it's important to stay away from that particular layer because we know that we can treat different layers in the temple. Another important thing to consider when we're talking about these layers is that we have different vascular structures located in these layers. Now, of course, they can change, and we know that when treating this area, things can get a little bit risky. But just know that there are more vascular components located in the inferior compartment of the temple, and some of these vascular components are actually horizontal in this area. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here, for example, when we look at the middle temporal vein, also known as a sentinel vein, and also the artery, these are located actually in this inferior compartment, as you can see here, and they are located in a horizontal plane. We also know that we have the superficial temporal artery, which actually goes from the inferior to the superior compartment. But this is an artery that we can avoid quite easily. Why? Because we can palpate it quite easily. It's located in the superficial temporal fascia. Just by palpating it, we can find the pulse, draw it on our patient, and avoid it. But of course, we have another artery located in the loose areolar tissue, which is called the zygomatic orbital artery. This is also located mainly in this inferior compartment because it's a horizontal, I would say, artery located between the superficial and the deep lamina of that deep temporal fascia. Finally, we can talk about the deep temporal arteries that you can see right here. Now, you can go ahead and argue that, again, these arteries are located both in the inferior and the superior compartment, and they are quite blind because we cannot see them, we cannot palpate them. You might be able to use ultrasound. But in general, when injecting, we know that the caliber of these arteries are thicker in the inferior compartment and they become thinner as we go upward in the superior compartment. That's why injecting in the superior compartment has less risk in terms of being able to really go ahead and penetrate those arteries compared to the inferior compartment as well. So that's why understanding the differences in the temple in terms of the layers and how things are organized in the upper and the lower temporal compartments has a very important, I would say, task in giving us that foundation for executing safe and, I would say, reproducible results in the temple when injecting this area.